hearts ring from the woods. On 45, life is good. She's around with probably should. Here in Nashville neighborhood, in the land of the free. Life is good. He's always shooting in the woods. He probably would have been good. Life is good. He wouldn't be living if he could. Life is good.
Yes, Hickok 45 here, your internet shooting companion, coming to you from the beautiful green hills of Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee, and we claim him the home of Elvis. Do I need to give you his last name? Some people you just know by their first name, right? Elvis is one of those individuals, originally from Mississippi, but lived in Memphis most of his life, right? Most of his life. Well, he died kind of young, so probably most of his life, 50, 60% of it, I guess. I don't know when he moved to Memphis as a teenager or something, perhaps. But yes, been to his house. Just an interesting fellow. Yeah, really, Elvis. We claim him. Yep, we claim him. Again, people from quote unquote Tennessee might have been born somewhere else. So I gave up trying to look all that up and don't care. If they lived in Tennessee, the significant parts of their lives, and you know, whether it's Johnny Cash or whoever, we claim them. You can claim them too, you know, since they were born wherever. So, I mean, I'm a good example. I'm a Tennessean. I really feel like a Tennessean, even though I'm from Kentucky. I was a teenager when I came to Tennessee, basically, you know, 17, I guess, went away to college, and 18, so, you know, just a child, right, at 18. I thought I was an adult. But then I became enlightened, not woke, enlightened, and realized that I was not an adult probably, and that then the older I got, the more I realized I'm not sure anybody's an adult until they get to be about 90. Yeah, if then. So what am I shooting? Well, you notice not a lot of recoil. There's a good reason for that. Big old kind of an L frame, right? Yeah, you probably thought when you saw it, yeah, because you couldn't see in the thumbnail exactly what it is. Some of you could tell from the flutes on the cylinder maybe, but many of you probably thought from the thumbnail, oh, he got a 357 out, he's got the 686 out again, and it looks like a 686, same contour. Well, I started to say the same weight, but not really. Why would this, in the same configuration, I guess pretty much exactly as a 686 357 Magnum, why would this be heavier? That's your quiz for the day. Why would this firearm be heavier? The barrel's the same length, 4-inch, all the dimensions, if we did all the measuring, you know, it's the same size, underlug and all of that, frame. Why would this be heavier than my 30 or my 357? Many of you know, okay? I'll let you chew on that a little bit. Yeah, I haven't fired this thing forever. Those were the first shots I had fired through this, I don't know, years. Isn't that sad? That's sad. What's wrong with me? This is such a nice pistol, revolver. Yeah, I love it. So at least I'm remedying the situation. I'm not going to let that condition drag on and on and on for a decade, you know, not having fired that day. And I have another little joyful firearm out here. And yeah, here I am. Again on the 11th, right? Yep. Well, before the 11th, but the week of the 11th, and we're all still alive and kicking, or else you wouldn't be watching this. Pretty sure of that. And well, can't be too sure of anything, can we? Cool. Ballistol, Town Grips, everybody helps us out. And of course, Alabama holster. Got one in my pocket, and it could be on my belt. could be in my purse. They make really nice little concealment holsters for your purse. And I've had trouble finding one that matches my purse, but because I think most of them are black, they might make them in different colors. I need to check into that. But I got such pretty purses in pink and lime green and everything, and I really would rather have one to match if I could find one. I could paint it, spray paint, I guess, the one I have. But anyway, yeah, great supporter of the channel as well. Alabama Holster, appreciate them a bunch, as we do anybody that helps us out. And of course, our new ammo sponsor, check them out. And what else do I have out here? I have another, it is the year 150th anniversary. So I'm going to be, I feel obligated maybe once a month at least to bring out a Colt single action. Shoots from 45 Colt. It is that year, 150th anniversary. Yep, 1873. I remember that year quite well. And it's been 150 years since this baby was invented. I mean, as with almost any invention, there were a lot of steps along the way. And before 1873, of course, you had the open top, which was similar, then it evolved to this. And, I wonder what the most famous firearm is. That's a strange word, isn't it? What's famous? I mean, maybe the most recognizable firearm is. I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe we'll do a video like that. What would you say is the most recognizable, most famous, most widely used on the planet or whatever? Recognize is a pretty good word, because in a lot of countries they can't even own a firearm, but they could vote, right? If they have TVs and movies, So the most recognizable firearm on the planet might be different from the most popular firearm on the planet in terms of people who shoot them and enjoy them. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I was thinking, some candidates would be this Colt Single Action Army, AK-47, AR-15 or M16, right? What else? I don't know, Mauser, Smith & Wesson revolver, double action revolver. Anyway, there's probably 8 or 10 that we could argue are the most recognizable firearms ever made. Shotgun, double barrel shotgun, I don't know. What would be the most obvious? I guess in terms of knowing exactly what it is, where it's from and who made it, there's lots of shotguns from all over the planet. But anyway, that's an interesting thing to think about. And I'm such a Westerns fan. I would say this might be my choice as the most recognizable, but I don't know. It's hard to say. AK-47 or something. I don't know. I've watched so many Westerns and have my whole life, so I have a skewed opinion, I guess, on that. But I still watch them. I'm a sad case. I still record the Rifleman every day on the Stars Western Channel, whatever it is, and try to catch it. And 99% of the time, it's one I've already seen somewhere along the way. Maybe back in the 50s I saw it, or 60s, and then later and still have seen it. But you know how it is. If it's something you really like, a show you really like, as long as you haven't seen it recently, sometimes, and it's, you enjoy it, then it's not so bad. And Gunsmoke, oh my gosh, we could name all those. Could be Bonanza. The ones that generally routinely show on the Westerns channel right now are Tales of Wells Fargo, the Rifleman, Laramie, Gunsmoke. Well, Gunsmoke's not running on there right now, I don't think. But The Deputy, interesting. Henry Fonda, that one goes back. You can tell by the quality of it too, can't you? If you ever see that. Wagon Train, others. And of course, there's a lot of really, really popular. You know, speaking of Wells Fargo, I was going to mention this. For Wells Fargo fans and Dale Robertson, Dale Robertson's his name. He plays Jim Hardy in that series. He has handled this firearm. I think I've told you that. I was at a gun show in Louisville, and it would have been the early 2000s. I don't know. Could look it up when I got 2002, 3, 4, 5. I would say 6. The latest, I don't know. He may have died in 2005. I don't want to lie to you, but it was sometime in the 2000s and early 2000s. And he was. I don't know if he was doing a meet and greet or I had done a meet and greet or I just wasn't aware of it at that show. But that's back in the heyday of those Louisville Gun Day shows. They still have some big ones there. This was a big one, and they were big, 2 or 3 a year then and now. But he was at a booth. Just randomly, I came up on him at a booth. This guy, a pretty nice booth, lots of guns, old guns of the West, and that kind of thing. And there he was, and he's an old guy. He was an old guy by then. I don't know. He may have been 80. I don't know, 75. I don't know. Seemed old. He's probably my age or something. And I was just walking on. He was just right there, standing at the table. It was like he was, working for the guy. Like he was a clerk working for this guy to go, hey buddy, will you want to work the gun show for me? $10 an hour. I mean, he was standing there, and I had just traded for this, and I had it in my belt, like that. And I walked up, and I was just kind of looking at him, and the high or whatever. He said, "What you got there, bud?" And he put his hand out. He wanted to see it, and so I handed it to him. I said, "You probably know what this is, don't you?" Or something like that. And I'll bet you know what this is, or something like that, And anyway, he messed with it a little bit and acted like he was going to steal it, stuck it in his belt. And but it was neat to meet him because I grew up and I didn't talk a long time with him. It just from I watched his show with my dad, growing up and everything. And but it was neat to see him. Somebody sit and watch, in those series. When I was whatever, 10 years old, 15. 20, and still. So it was interesting. I don't know what else. What am I rambling about? My gosh. Oh, one thing I wanted to correct. Last week, and someone I noticed mentioned in a comment, but I'd already figured it out. Complaining about my new car, how it wouldn't move 3 feet unless I fastened the seatbelt. Well, I got to going in because I'm still figuring everything else out, all the screens and, oh my gosh, the Bluetooth setups. And it's got rear screens and all this kind of stuff, So it's like having a rocket ship, like working for NASA. You're here, figure this thing out, And there was a setting. Yeah, discovered a set. I wasn't even looking for that. I was just looking through all the settings, see what do I need to change here. And I did change some things. I didn't realize on my other car, previous one, I had a lot of those same settings probably. I never did fix it. I kept thinking I would. One thing I hated on my other one, when I'd back up, the mirrors would tilt down, and I hated that. It was I got to fix that. I'd start cursing at myself every time I'd back up. Those things, and then I have to get down and look and try to see where the heck I'm going. Well, I stumbled on that. Oh, great! I'll make sure that doesn't ever happen on this car. And then the seatbelt business, whether you can decide whether. So I complained about that unjustifiably. You can change the setting to where you don't have to fasten a seatbelt to drive it. Now I use a seatbelt. I'm not advocating not wearing seatbelts, but anyway, it was a great find, and so I apologize, General Motors. I wore seatbelts. Me, and this all ties into just again the libertarian attitude that I've had my whole life, and I do a lot of things just because it makes sense, but I don't want someone telling me to do it, forcing me to do it. That's kind of where that is. I started wearing a seatbelt back before it was required. And that was when I started traveling a lot by car and plane. But in the 80s, early 80s, I had an old boxy Volvo, those DL 240s or whatever, and I was driving a lot, and I just got to wear my seatbelt. I'm out for hours and hours and hours on the road or whatever, and I just felt like it would give me more control if I had an accident or a near miss, or had to swerve or went off the road in a ditch and bouncing around, or something like that. It just makes sense. It'd be more secure in the seat, kind of held in the seat. So it was a common sense thing, and for me. But then it wasn't long after that. Oh, it's a requirement, and then I was tempted not to wear it, just because it was required, a state law. Anyway, that's me. It's a quirk, maybe. It's although I don't really see it as a quirk. I see it as someone who grew up in a free country and without so much government intervention. That's really what I see it. So I'm perfectly fine with criticizing myself if I have some weird quirk and all that, which I of course have many. But that to me is a positive quirk. Yeah, our founding fathers sort of had that quirk, didn't they? They wanted small government, and it's kind of sad that so many people, seem to want a big government these days. I don't know where that comes from, where that came from. It is crazy. I was thinking the other day, some of the very same people who I guarantee you will be sitting at a bar this afternoon after work, from they leave the office or wherever, and complaining about the control, resent the control their boss has over them, or their company has over them, or the things their company requires. The very same people that are griping about some of that are probably some of the very same people who keep voting in big government and just love big government and control over their lives. Some overlap there. It's crazy, isn't it? Crazy. Can I shoot again? I'm gonna load this 22 up. Oh, something like that. Yeah. Speaking of cars, new cars, have you ever gotten in the wrong car? Have you ever come out to a parking lot and thought it was your car, but it was not your car? Because a lot of cars do look kind of alike today. I had the crossover Highlander Toyota, which is a good example of that too. I know my wife drives that now, and she's done that several times. Can't find the car because think how many, and it's a white one. Think about how many, well, of any color, but there seems to be a lot of white cars and a lot of black cars. But how many white cars, crossovers, are there in that sort of size range sitting in a parking lot right now? Go to Walmart or anywhere. And there's just so many of them. And she's had that trouble finding hers, or almost trying to get in the wrong one, all that sort of thing. Well, my Yukon is a black one, just like the last one and everything. And there's several of those on the road too. I had an interesting experience this past weekend. Going double action, that one didn't fire, did it? That's fun. Not much recoil. Anyway, my wife and I went down to Bell Buckle, Tennessee, had lunch, everything the other day, and backed into the parking lot. And it's nice having all those cameras, and everything at the car. And backed in. And then we shopped around there at 8, whatever. And let's see, what was it? I was going to the car to put something in the car, and she was going over to some other shop across the road there, or something like that. And so I run out to the car, sitting there where we parked, and she had gotten ahead of me, and I got out there close to the car, and I noticed it was running. It's got the running lights on her, and I could hear it when I got close. Oh, okay. I thought she was going over there, and she's sitting in the car. I see her sitting in the car. I said, oh, okay. So the first thing I was going to ask her was, "You ready to go? Don't you want to shop a little more, you know?" And I didn't even know she had her key. Really, kind of surprised me too. Usually she does, but I thought maybe she didn't. Anyway, car's running, so okay, I open the door and start to ask her, and it's some other lady sitting in there in the passenger seat. Wasn't my car. And mine was like on the other side of there was some kind of big truck between them, but mine was on the other side. And so I was slightly embarrassed. I was about to jump in this car and kidnap this woman. Okay. And it was so funny. I was so embarrassed. I opened the door and realized, oh, I'm sorry. And I just closed the door immediately. And she said something like, "Hey," or whatever. And so then I just talked to her through the window. I said, I'm sorry. My car, I was pointing over here, my car's over here. Of course, she couldn't hear anything I said probably through the window. And so I went over to my car and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to apologize to her again, make sure. And I think she might have heard, I didn't know. I thought, well, I'd like to walk over to the window and say, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, my car looks just like yours." You couldn't see it from where she was sitting. I've got the same car essentially. But then I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. If I go over there and approach the car again, like up to her driver's or passenger side, and expect her to open the window to hear what I have to say, that might not happen. She might already have pegged me as a weirdo. That she might shoot me. Anyway, I don't know if you've ever done that. Now, my wife did that years ago. It was back in the early 2000s with another black Yukon we had. And there's several, those are not too uncommon. And she went out to the parking lot and she actually got in one, and it was unlocked and there was nobody in it, but she got in it. And, then she started realizing, who left this stuff in the car? Just looking around, you see different things in the car. It finally dawned on her. So that's a lesson to everybody. If you're going to sit in a car waiting for somebody, you might want the doors locked to keep weirdos from showing up, like me, right? And getting in the car and kidnapping you. All right, let's shoot this Colt. You want to? Let's shoot this Colt. So this is an interesting experiment. You don't know about it. Well, this is just some stuff I picked up too. Got some S&B I got from some hand loads from Wideners.com. This is some ammo I just picked up, gosh, a year ago, I guess. What is it? Stewart County Ballistics. Something loaded locally here. And I tried it yesterday in that Cimarron Schofield that I brought out one Sunday. And I noticed I had the same issue that I had. I forgot what ammo that was in the Sunday video, that it kind of hung up a little bit. And I don't know if I discovered that in that Sunday morning video or not, what the issue is with that Schofield. Let me shoot it in this gun first, see if it'll work all right. Felt like it would. Yeah. Let's go out to the gong. Big old 45, nice sound. I figured any of that would work in a Colt. The issue with that Schofield, and now my Schofield, it's a Cimarron as well, I think, isn't it? Yeah, it's got the 7-inch barrel. But this 5-inch Schofield I brought out a few weeks ago, this ammo kind of clogs it up. And was it the S&B I was putting in it? I don't know. They don't think it was that. That doesn't look like it would clog. It was some other ammo. Maybe it was that I had, and so I determined, if I didn't on that Sunday, that that Schofield has really tight tolerances. The chamber and the throat, not really throat, but we're in the cylinder and the chambers, where it narrows down, near the front of the chamber, of course. In that Schofield, it narrows down either very, very tight dimensions or a little sooner or something. And that's what it just ever so slightly. So that, like with this, you put that round in there and it just goes fully in. And it seemed like it kind of does in the Schofield. But maybe just the least little bit of dirt. The tolerances are so tight on that just a heads up if you're buying a Schofield or a Cimarron, at least that one. It's not a big deal just to get ammo that works. If you're loading your own ammo, then you'd want to make sure you got the bullet seated, deeply enough and that kind of thing. But that's what that is. There was nothing wrong with that gun other than just tight tolerances. And most 45 ammo, there's not a problem. I've shot a bunch of it in my hand loads and 4 or 5 kinds. It just, does just fine. But if you got a bullet with a, I guess, what would you call that, a large ogive, the diameter of the front of the bullet, that can be an issue, as it can with lots of firearms. I think that was the thing we determined with the Glock 42 when it came out, because of, what was it, the ejector or some issue with, I remember that ammo that was a little fatter, the actual bullet head, if it was a little fatter, it would rub against, maybe it was a slide release or some issue with that. So you always want to test whatever ammo you're going to carry, especially. And then really too, what ammo you're going to shoot the most, before you go buy 10,000 rounds of it. I always do that when I'm hand loading. If the gun I'm not loaded for, man, I ain't all that bright, but I'm smart enough to load some up, like even 10 rounds. I would not have the luxury of being able to go out, walk out in the range and try it, of course. And if I didn't, and when I didn't, take it to the range and shoot it. But shoot those 10 rounds or those 50, and how do they load? Is there anything too tight? Have got the bullet seated the right depth? Are they a little stronger than I wanted? Are they a little weaker than I wanted? That kind of thing. And when you're sure you got a round you like where it prints, the weight bullet and everything, yeah, that holds, especially in a firearm with fixed sights. You like where it hits, and the way you have to sight the firearm with it and all that, recoil, okay, and especially if you're hand loading, and it's a bullet that you're going to be able to find. If you're looking for some oddball hard cast bullet for, say, a 45 Colt, you just have this thing, you'd like to shoot a 265 grain bullet. Well, I don't know if anybody makes one of those or not, or a 242 grain bullet or some kind of oddball thing like that. You may not find them. So it does make sense to start, or at least consider seriously, a bullet that is commonly available, whether it's a factory load or it's a bullet you want to load that you can find if you're not casting them yourself. For example, that's why I've loaded 240 grain 44s my whole life. That's the standard. Nothing wrong with it. I've also loaded some heavier 300 grain bullets, that kind of thing occasionally. But it's less expensive. It's more convenient. If it's not a good place to be a contrarian or a hipster or something. Well, everybody loads a 240 grain bullet. I'm going to shoot a 230 grain bullet because I found some place that might have some of those. So I'm like, yeah, well, okay, good luck finding those 3 years from now, 20 years from now, or whatever. So it just makes sense to get a bullet that you like, but it's fairly common. And then you get your die set too for it at the right height and everything. And then you don't have to mess with that either. So there we go, for some reloading instruction, right? All right, those do fine. Let's shoot some more of those. The blue tip's kind of weird. Let's shoot a hand load. I haven't shot any of these yet, have I? Yeah, man, 150th anniversary. Gosh, time flies when you're having fun. 150 years went by fast. Oh, boy. What is that? Oh, yeah. Let me give you some advice for young people. I've got some gun advice for young people. Yeah. And that is, dawned on me, I was thinking about this morning. You may have been around firearms a lot as a young person. Your uncle may have a farm. You've gone out there and shot with him, her, your aunt, You and your buddies have been shooting, even in high school. You go out to somebody's land or whatever, shoot the desert, and you might have had a lot of exposure to firearms and have shot, been a lot of woods and shooting and different things, but you might not have ever been to a formal shooting range, like an indoor range or outdoor range, or any competition, or have taken any classes in firearms. Why am I bringing all that up? I have encountered people, and you might too, who have had a lot of experience shooting. They grew up around the farm shooting, everything. Their parents had guns, all that. But they might still not be really safe. Now, you might not be safe and not realize it. There is a firearms culture. We talk about that all the time. There's a firearms safety culture that you really do want to be a part of. You really do, okay? And sometimes people kind of skirt that just because they're fortunate enough to live in the country and shoot. And they've had a lot of fun with firearms, and nobody's been killed or anything. But sometimes those folks show up at a range with other people shooting, and they scare the bejesus out of everybody, They're not used to shooting with a lot of people or in a shooting match where everybody's walking around guns and different things, and they're not touching them, but they're in a holster with a Cowboy match or a USPSA match, whatever it might be. And then sometimes they're shocked at the safety regulations and how picky they think the range officers are and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of a new experience for, this camera looks odd. No, it's a shadow. So it's kind of a new experience for them. And hopefully they're not too turned off by that and can see the reason for it, right? The reason for it. So a person can have a lot. So my advice is to young people is to get to an indoor range, take a class, even if it's just basic gun safety or I don't know, marksmanship 101 or the most basic class, just whatever it might be. And of course, with your permit class, you get some of that generally. But it really is advantageous to become indoctrinated into like the rules of gun safety and what you do when you're around other people with firearms, that kind of, just like the hunter safety classes, do. And it's also our responsibility too to try to know and realize when we're going to be shooting with somebody who is kind of from that background. They seem to know a lot about guns. Somebody at the office, or in school, your college dorm, you talk to a lot about guns. Wow, this guy knows a lot about guns. He's grown up with firearms and knows everything about them. And you go to a range together and you might learn that, well, he does, she does, but it was because they grew up on a farm and shot all the time. But they're a little lax in terms of gun safety and some of those things. So it's like two different worlds. I know I went through some of that. I've been shooting a long time, and it wasn't until I got, the first shooting matches I got into were the U.S., long range silhouette shooting with handguns, back in the 70s. And that was a good step, but it wasn't quite as big a step because that was a little more relaxed, where we did it, but it's a little bit different. But when I got into USPSA shooting, that was a real eye-opener, and it was just really good education, that, wow, you have a shooting table, a safety table, the only place you can touch a firearm. And it better not be loaded or around ammo, that kind of thing. And you break the 180 or swing your muzzle around too far in that direction. It doesn't matter if anybody's over there or not. Then that's a violation. You may be disqualified. You have to leave the match. All those kinds of things. It just really puts boundaries on you that are good. They're good for you. They really are. So just be aware of that. It would be good for everybody. Go take a class. Anytime you're around really experienced firearms people, who have competed or have been a range officer, or they work in a shooting range, or whatever it might be. You know, it's just good to be around them and learn from them. Okay, so young people, if you've shot a fair amount, but you've not really been involved in any kind of organized, you know, like training or competitions or anything at all, it is a different world in a lot of ways, and it's a good world, and there's a lot to be learned. So I would advise everybody, if they get a chance, can afford it, to take a class. You know, just kind of get your procedures, you know, kind of in order. Be good for everybody. So that's my advice. I'm sticking to it before I shoot this thing. All right. All right. Oh, I have not put a 45 on that target, have I? Hey, huh? Interesting. You notice that? It makes a larger hole than the 22 did. I'm surprised. Yeah, larger hole. Uh-oh, but I went low. Yep, I did. Let's try it with one hand. Do I have another round? Yeah, I got one round. All right. All right, duelist. Oh, speaking of that, I was down in Bell Buckle this past week and last week, and in one of the shops there were a couple of people in there dressed like cowboys. You know, there was a guy and his wife dressed like a cowboy and a cowgirl, and they were talking to the clerk, and when I heard them, and they were talking about the match going on and everything. So, okay, yeah, I learned it was the weekend of the, I guess they called the state match, you know, the War Trace regulators have down there in War Trace, Tennessee. And that's the Cowboy Action Club where I started shooting in '97. Shot for about 10 years down there off and on. And just hadn't done it since then. But so I talked to them a little bit, you know, and it was the next day, it was taking place, the main part of it, and oh man, I'd kind of like to go see that. I've not even seen that match they have down there, the state match. When I was shooting, they didn't really put those on. Maybe they did the last couple of years, but I never did shoot one. And so I thought, I'd kind of like to drive back down here. It's a good hike. But I'm like, yeah, I did the next day. Buddy and I roped him into going with me. We went down there and just watched a little bit and shopped the vendors, you know, because sometimes they have vendors, leather crafters, and maybe ammo and all kinds of things. Anyway, so I did. It was interesting seeing the old range again. It'd been about 15 years since I'd been there or more. Nice club if you're interested in getting into cowboy action shooting. The War Trace regulators in War Trace of all places. It's a nice place, little town built, you know, in the hills, and ran some of you there. It's good to meet you, a bunch of you. And not many people that I used to compete with, maybe one, I think. Barely recognized him other than by his name, you know. So, and it was a state match. It was a little bit different. A lot of the local competitors don't necessarily shoot in it, but there were people from all over the Southeast and Midwest, you know, there shooting. And I met a lot of you. Good to meet you again. So anyway, that was kind of neat to get back at one of those matches. It's been a long time. And again, I have to remind people of this every now and then. I feel like I have to. Because I used to shoot in USPSA. It's not like I got too old to do any of that stuff. Again, USPSA or Glock, GSSF matches, or it's not like I got too old to do that stuff, or to play college basketball. Well, maybe that one. It's just I did it. You know, for, you know how we guys are bad about that anyway. We get really into something for a few years, then we get bored or tired of it, and you're into something else. So it's partly that. You know, I just, like USPSA, I was so into that for 5 or 6 years, and and helped run the club and stats officer, all that kind of thing, and just shot 3 different guns, revolver, stock gun, and an open class, and every match. And I don't know, you just get to, okay, this has been fun. Then I went to IDPA and did that for a couple, 3 years, and had a lot of fun with that, and worked my way up in that. And then the same with cowboy action shooting, and I just don't, I don't know, it's not that I didn't like it, it's just going to spend the whole day at a match like that. I just don't need to do it, So anyway, it's not like you outgrow stuff, or they don't want to leave you with the impression that once you get to be 60 or 70 or something, you can't do any of this stuff. You better do it while you can. That's the thing about the shooting sports. You can, man, as long as you can stand up and see. Well, actually, you don't even have to stand up. Maybe you don't even have to see. You can do some shooting, but it's a lifelong sport endeavor. That's a nice thing about it. So I'm still doing it right here. Let's shoot some of these jacketed rounds. Woo. Nice. That hog. Cowboy, gotta shoot you. All right. Nice. Hope the camera's working all right. I had to get a new camera too. Some of y'all have noticed the other one, basically the same camera. We use an XA series Canon. It is an XA40, and this one's an XA60. Just got it this week. I don't think they make the 40 anymore, but they're essentially the same. But you notice it was fading in and out in terms of the lighting. It wasn't dramatic, but I know some of y'all noticed it. We noticed it in a recent video I posted. I was looking at, and yeah, you gotta get that fixed. And I just got a new one, and I'm still going to see if that's fixable. If it's the cost of a camera, I won't fix it. But I don't know what causes that. We thought it was the gunfire initially. It was responding to that, but it doesn't seem to be that. It might be part of it, I don't know. But anyway, what did I just shoot for? So anyway, I did make sure that I think all the settings are correct. So maybe you can tell, are you looking at me through a camera that makes sense, right? Okay, maybe I'll look better, right? I'll shoot this 22 again. All right, anything else you were dying to know about? I'll tell you something. It comes to mind every time I hear it. Whenever there's a shooting that gets all the politicians' attention, of course, well, it has to be a mass shooting. It wouldn't matter if 1,000 people were shot in Chicago. It's only when someone shoots 3 people at once or something. Because why do the politicians get excited about that? It gives them an opportunity for pushing their political agenda, right? They don't really necessarily care about people. So some of them. But anyway, I'm always amused. It's not a time to be amused, but when there is a shooting, there'll be a reporter will say, the White House has been briefed. Has been briefed on the shooting. The president has been alerted, or the president has been briefed. And I always think, oh, thank goodness. Yeah, wow, now I feel a lot safer. Oh, yeah. And all they do, typically, depending on who's in office, it's really just a call to, oh, okay, let's see. Where's that bill we're trying to get through on gun control? Yeah, dust that thing off. We've got it ready. We've just been waiting for another shooting, and maybe we can make some progress with it. And then recently they commemorated or whatever the anniversary of I think it was the Uvalde shooting. Maybe you made a big deal out of that in the news and press conference and all that. Again, in an effort to push gun control. That was all that was about. So, but most of us know that. We see through the politicians, don't we? It's pretty easy to see through. You don't have to be a genius Can I shoot this? Can I shoot it fast? I don't know. Now double action, I might get a misfire. Oh, got one. And this ammo's been in a barn, some of this for a while, not in controlled climate. One thing about 22 ammo, yeah, it doesn't hold up in the weather well. Other ammo tends to hold up really well. The other thing, I'll experiment here. Some of you already know what I'm going to say. Because of the way I was shooting, the last 2 times, 2 cylinders full of ammo, I had one, didn't I? At least one not fire until it got hit again. Now watch this. I bet it won't happen. I'm going to cock it every time. See? What'd I tell you? So you know what I'm going to say. I've shown you all this before. You might not have been here. You might have been sleeping and didn't see the video, but I know it's somewhere a time or two I've shown you all this. Now we're definitely clear. I wouldn't be pointing it at that tree over there, but when you shoot double action, notice how far the hammer comes back before it falls now. Okay? About right there, right? Now if I shoot single action, hey, a lot further back. See, there you go, clicking in 22, you're not supposed to, right? So your hammer fall is from there in single action. Double action, it's about right there, it's ready to trip. So what's that mean? That means a hammer ain't gonna hit the case, the primer, the case, as hard, okay? Back in the 70s, I know people would take whatever, model 66 carry gun or something, and they'd loosen the screw on the mainspring, or they'd have the action smoothed up to the point where, oh boy, that thing was a dream to pull that trigger, so smooth and easy to pull that double action trigger. The only problem was it wouldn't always fire. It wouldn't always hit the primer hard enough, and boy, I avoided that like the plague. The most important thing is what? Reliability, that goes bang when you pull that trigger. Speaking of that, reminds me of the 80X Cheetah last week. I fired that some more, messed with it, and studied it without the pressure of y'all looking over my shoulder. I just that's why I was kind of perplexed last week. Okay, there's something I'm not thinking about. I was kind of road weary. There's something I'm not thinking about here. Because the Berettas in general, the 92 I have and everything, the safety and everything is so different, and it decocks or it doesn't decock. There's different models of them. Some of them they got now the safety is frame mounted, and you up or down to decock it or not, or I don't use them often enough, and so. They're a little, I don't know about confusing, but they're just not as simple, okay? Like if I was going to take you from a 1911 or a standard firearm and then indoctrinate you in the Beretta 92, for example, or something, it would be a process. We have to get used to that. It's just different. And so I was just thinking as it did, okay, there's something here. Yeah, these things are strange and they're different to me. And this is some setting, because there are some interesting pistols out there where you can set them, decock them in a different way, or you can set them so that you can fire single action. You can set it so that you've got more like a 1911, click the safety off and then single action, or whatever. There's all kinds of variations out there. And so that's what was in my head. Okay, there's something here. I should have read the instruction manual, because it feels so much like a notch. It's not like I don't have anything with a safety on it, and it's not like just a safety like a Browning high power, the old ones. You had to really put a lot of force on that thing to get that safety engaged. Because I had one of those, and I think the one I have is a little like that. Just a lot of force on it, But this one's different from that. When you have it, was it cocked? Yeah, when you're cocked, the hammer cocked, you push it up and it really does just like go into a notch, and then there's resistance there, and you push it on up and it decocks. So it is a definite notch. That was the thing. I said, well, it's not just hard to engage, it stops right there and it just clicks in, kind of. You know, that was the thing. But that's just on the way up is all that is. There's no special operation there. That's just, it needs to go all the way up to decocked, you know, or not. So there's no notch really there. At least there's not supposed to be. Okay, put it that way. And I'm sure it'll break in to where, you know, it's not like that, but something to be aware of. In fact, somebody wrote me or left a comment that they had a video on that, and I looked at the video. I forgot the guy's name, but yeah, the same findings, you know, and was you know, considering that a big negative on the gun, you know. So but anyway, as long as you're aware of it, it's not a problem, right? You're not as dumb as I am, and you know how that thing is supposed to work. So I guess I should let you go. I've shot too much, I've yacked too much, and I've had nothing to say that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Nope. That I'm going to mention, of course, the brace injunctions, and say, I know most of your, if you have one or you're thinking about, were thinking about buying a brace, you know, for your pistol, whatever, you're keeping up with that, and there's a lot of good information on that from everybody that keeps us abreast of that, whether it's Tim from Military Arms or whoever. But you know, just keep track of where that stands, or what is about 3 different injunctions, you know, and if you're a member of the Firearms Policy Coalition, or Second Amendment Foundation, or GOA, whatever, I think I'm life members of all of them. I think even the Firearms Policy Coalition, I don't want to say without some reserve. I think I'm a life member of it as well. But anyway, so I'm a member of all those, and I'll have to double check on that. I haven't seen a card. I think I am Firearms Policy. I know I'm a life member of the other 2. So I guess I'm covered for now. But anyway, I'm watching it, and I know a lot of y'all are too. So hopefully we will end up in a place before too much longer where these unelected government bureaucrats won't control so much of our individual liberty, put it that way. Okay, speaking of being a libertarian. So I'm going to let you go. I've yacked a lot, and I'm yacked out. Yeah. So good to see you all, and I appreciate your support. I really do. I'm still posting 3-4 times a week, 2, 3, 4 times every week. And a lot of you are getting notified, and some of you are not. Some of you get unsubscribed and all that kind of thing, because I hear from you every day. So anyway, check all that, and make sure you don't miss anything brilliant that I might have to say. Yeah. You might actually watch every single video and miss all the brilliant things I have to say, because I don't really say a lot of brilliant things, do I? Good to talk to you all, and I really appreciate you coming out on this Sunday. Check yourself for ticks, because it's that time of the year. If you haven't sprayed, okay, really do, because they're out here. And I'll see you next week. Life is good.